Hey, everybody. In this episode, we have myself, Ben, and Tyler. Tyler comes on the show to discuss a little bit of his story. We're discussing proper length of stay when it comes to treatment. What's a good amount for somebody to be in treatment? Is it possible to not be in treatment long enough? For sure it is. We're also talking about why it's important to slow down. When we're in early sobriety, it's important that we take things day by day. We don't need the career right out of the gate. We don't need the car. We don't need the house. We don't need the wife right out of the gate. Take your time, slow down. Tyler had a job at Starbucks the first 4 years of his sobriety, and we talk about why that was so important and influential for him. We also talk about relationships in early sobriety, why we caution people in doing that, and how it ended up playing out for Tyler. All that and more. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
And we have a gentleman by the name of Tyler. Tyler, how are you, sir?
Very good.
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, boys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I almost said thank you first. I know you were looking at me wondering what I...
Oh, I zone out at this point.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
When he does this every time. I'm just,
Also, go to Facebook and join our Facebook group. You can just go there, type in Real Recovery Talk Support Group. It's welcome to everybody, and we want you to go there and join. Family members, loved ones, addicts in recovery, alcoholics in recovery, or if you need recovery. Chances are you're not listening to this, but in the event that you are, you can go to Facebook and type in Real Recovery Talk Support Group, and all the resources that you need to live a long, fruitful, sober life is inside there. I believe it's already made up of close to 400 members, but we want more. So make sure you go there and visit our website, realrecoverytalk.com. If you want to schedule a call with us, it's free. 10 to 15-minute phone call. We'll take a listen to your current situation and see if we can help in any way. Ben, anything else?
I think you hit it all, Tom.
All right, here we are, Tyler. How are you, sir?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So all organic, nothing scripted. We're just going to talk about you, talk about your life, talk about your screw-ups, talk about where you're thriving, and hopefully give the people a solid message of hope and recovery. You down for that?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Ben, any intros here?
No, not at all. I was just telling Tyler, let's not talk too much before we hit record, because honestly, I didn't know anything about his story.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool how it's organic in that matter. You know, there's variations, but it all comes back to the same principles at the end of the day.
So the way that we connected, Tyler, you work in the field.
Mm-hmm.
You work where?
Harmony Hills.
Harmony Hills. And just give us elevator version of what that is.
Yeah, Harmony Hills is a primary mental health residential where we treat more of, mental health and more there's a lot of co-occurring involved. But we work with anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, and some much higher acuity situations.
Okay, so it's primary mental health.
Yeah.
Okay, any substance abuse there? Or, I mean, some, but...
Yeah, we have detox, but you're not, it wouldn't make sense for you if you didn't want to focus on your mental health first. But a lot of our, we call our clients guests. A lot of our guests will discharge to a program like this, like a substance abuse, because they do have that co-occurring effect. But there's just other things, whether it's trauma or some of the other things we talked about, that they need to deal with first.
Okay, cool.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when it comes to mental health and substance abuse, parents will often ask me, well, which one do we take care of first?
Right.
And through my professional experience, you got to address the mental health first. Kind of by default, just by being in a residential program, you're abstaining from drugs and alcohol. You're not working on the things necessarily focused on that are going to help keep you sober. But dude, if you don't get the mental health in check first,
right,
your substance abuse, it's secondary. It has to be, in my opinion.
And that's why, a lot of times, I notice this a lot when I worked in substance abuse, like before you take away, I mean, we all know this, like before you take away the drugs and alcohol, there could be a lot going on. I personally was diagnosed with bipolar. For me personally, it had a lot to do with my drug and alcohol played a lot into that. So the fact that we have detox, it's like what Harmony Hills is really, really good at is, subtracting all that's going on, kind of, finding the right medication, doing the right therapy, really just low key, because a lot of people aren't diagnosed or misdiagnosed with whatever they're coming in on. So our doctors and psychiatrists and therapists, it's like figuring out, okay, this is their baseline. This is what's going on. And what are the next steps going to look like? Is it more, do they need to focus more on substance abuse, and will AA eventually be something for them? Or is it more of the therapeutic route and finding the right therapist that they're going to have to work with? So it's interesting.
I'm so glad you brought up the zero baseline thing, because that drives me nuts, dude. Where kind of like you were saying, all the time people are misdiagnosed. We'll use bipolar because you use it as your example. But like people will be like, yeah, I'm bipolar. I'm like, when were you diagnosed? 5 years ago. Yeah. But I've been smoking meth every day for the last 15. I'm like, well, yeah, no wonder, dude. Like you present as bipolar. But get them to that zero baseline with no drugs in their system and their brain had some time to heal a little bit. They might not be bipolar.
Exactly.
But a lot of times like facilities, they'll just throw them on medications for bipolar, and down the line when their zero baseline is coming because they're off the medications are actually throwing them off. So it's so important to that's why we believe in the longer in treatment, the better.
Right.
Like Tom made a little reel the other day. What did it say? If you're not going to commit to at least 90 days.
Oh yeah. I said 30 days of treatment is a waste of money.
It is.
It is.
I 100% agree.
Do me a favor real quick and I'll cut this out. See, this pivots. So pivot it like this. Other way. There you go. A little bit more. There. Perfect.
Right there?
Yes. Because you do this. You lean back.
I do.
Yeah. And as you do that, you get
strategy.
further and further away. So
then I can hear nothing.
That's why I got these on.
Okay.
It's like a jet. There's so much fire coming out.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I love this. I feel important.
You are important.
Where are we at? 6. Yeah, I mean, I think that the inspiration on that reel was I had a conversation with a mom, and she insisted that her child needed 30 days of treatment. He doesn't need anything more than that. He just and this was a mom that in particular the denial is so thick that she believes that he needs 30 days of treatment. He just needs to go somewhere, dry out, yada, yada, yada. So that was the inspiration behind that. I think it's not talked about enough, especially, look, I understand if it's insurance that's paying for it and you want to go the 30-day route and you want to burn the insurance's money, I don't care. That's totally fine. But if you're going to pay out of pocket, which a lot of people do, they choose to pay out of pocket $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 at some places. One place just increased their price, left to be unnamed, $90,000 for 30 days of treatment. I don't know what the hell you're getting, but I want to be in that business. But anyways, imagine paying $90,000 or somebody that's on the phone, the admissions person saying, you can come in here. Yes, it's 90 grand and 30 days is going to be all you need. I would not be able to sleep at night.
No, well, therapists too. And we talk about this all the time, Tyler, where for us, we want 90 to 120 days out of somebody because it takes us 3 weeks to get to know somebody. Right. They come in with their stage character and present who, usually the shortcomings, character defects take about 3 weeks to start coming out. And then the therapist has something to work with.
Right.
So you're really not even doing the work until after you've been here for 30 days. I don't care how good of a therapist you are. It's always the case.
I've always worked, since working in the field, I've always worked in higher levels of care, detox res or mental health residential. when I'm talking to a mom or dad or a family member, whatever it is, and that comes up, right? Like, hey, whether insurance is involved, private pay option comes up, and it's like, we're going to do this, and then they're going to come back home. And it's like, I tell people, and I mean, you can call me wrong or whatever, but like, you're not going to accomplish anything in your life if you go like Harmony Hills. Yes, great place, love it, love everything about it. If you go there for 30 days and just go right back home and insert yourself right back into life, whatever that looks like, you're going to fail, and having that conversation with the family members can be difficult, but it's so true. And that's why I've always been a supporter of PHP IOP, of long-term, of sober living. And if there is money available, saving it for that, because that's what saved my life. That's what saved a lot of people that I speak to, their lives, and it's true. Like that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It works going both ways too. Like you mentioned, you do all higher levels of care. Right. I've always been PHP and down,
right,
in my experience. But we have the same thing on the other end where people are like, they want to skip detox and residential and just do IOP. I'm like, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
It's the same on the other end of the spectrum. I just want to do detox.
So and it's the full continuum that
there's a reason there's all those levels of care. It's like graduating, your different grades.
I've talked about this so many times on the podcast, bypassing levels of care. And I understand, and I think we can all agree, there are certain situations that, people have to bypass levels of care for whatever reason. But the vast majority don't necessarily need to. And whether you want to bypass detox and res and jump straight to PHP, or you want to bypass PHP and IOP, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
Point blank, period. And I think the reason for that is because I'm a firm believer there's no such thing as too much treatment. The longer that we can separate ourselves from the drug, from the booze, the better, and the more opportunity that there is to attain the tools necessary to stay sober, which is a lot. Like, it's not just coming into treatment, having a therapist and meeting with your therapist for 4 weeks in a row, once a week, and going to the groups. That's not going to give you the tools to stay sober. And a lot of people are under this illusion that it is. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody insists on paying to come here and all they want to do is stay 30 days, totally fine. But I'm going to tell you on the front end, don't come barking at me or ask for some sort of like refund or reimbursement when you're not successful. And I tell everybody, this is my spiel. I'm not going to take any money from you unless you commit to 90 or 120 days. The reason for that is it's not fair to you and it's not fair to me. Now, if they turn around and say, I understand that, but I only want to do 30 days and I'm willing to, like, that's all I can do, totally fine. I said everything I needed to say on the front end. Go ahead and come on in.
It's funny you brought that up too, to kind of clarify, like, we also, as professionals and interventionists, like, I'll take that 30 days. Say, for instance, you get the parents on board for the 90, 120 days, whatever, the full continuum of care. Sometimes the client themselves is like, I'm only doing 30. I'm like, Mom, let me handle it. We'll tell them 30. Because Patrick, I want to bring this up. We got a guy, Patrick. He just came by downstairs just to say hi to us. He just celebrated a year, and it was so funny because he's one of these dudes. I got him on the phone. He's like, I'm only doing 30 days, Ben. And he was a jerk, bro, from New York. And I'm like, telling me he's doing 30 days. And I just did a little video with him with Eric in it. I'm like, Patrick, you committed to 30 days. How long you been here? He's like, a year. But he's our house manager now, too,
that's
dude.
Awesome.
You know what I'm saying? So also the opportunity, and I'm sure you see this in detox res, too, or, the mental health. How many clients show up just to do Harmony Hills for 30 days, but then they see the other clients.
Right.
Oh, you're going to PHP somewhere? Oh, you're going? hey, where are you going? I want to go too. You know, it's kind of like give them the opportunity to see what other people in their shoes are doing, so they don't feel like they're the only one.
And that's always my biggest thing. Like if that comes up, like kind of that barrier is, let's just work on being a little open-minded. We don't have to agree 220 days today, you know, but let's come in, let's give this program a shot. Work with the therapist, get comfortable. I'll be speaking to you, and usually you're right. You kind of see that turnaround, like, I want to go there too, and it's great. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's transition now. Let's talk a little bit about you.
Yeah.
You're from Philly.
Right outside. All the Philly guys will yell at me if I say it. Right outside. So Delaware County.
I'm the same. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, but right outside Newcastle, 40 miles north of Pittsburgh. So I'm a Steeler fan. Two different worlds. A lot of times people mix me. They all, they'll say, "Oh, Tom, you're from Philly," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." do you ever get that? Like people in like, do people ever mistake you for being from Pittsburgh?
No, I think the guys in Philly are so annoying that it would be like,
and a very distinct accent.
They don't think of, nothing against Pittsburgh, but they just don't think of Pittsburgh much. But I could see it the other way around, because I think people in Philly can be a little ego-y at times.
Yeah.
As a Florida man looking in at the situation with you two, it is a one-way street. The Philly guys don't care about the Pittsburgh guy. Sorry,
nor
Tom.
the Pittsburgh guys don't care about the Philly guys.
Every time
I care about
like
you.
Kind of do.
I care about you too.
Yes. But any other Philly guys, I don't care.
Like when the Steelers would ever play the Eagles, especially when I was down here, they'd be like, "Isn't this like a rivalry?" And I'm like, "No, like I don't really,
not at all.
It's just another game,
So you got sober young,
24. Yeah, the first time. I won't get into all this stuff, but starting young, my family there's a lot of drugs and alcohol. There's a lot of mental health. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of everything. My mom actually celebrates 19 years this year, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
So when I was just getting sober, she had right around 10 or so.
Wow.
But throughout my childhood, it was a great childhood. I didn't have everything, but it was only child. I was all into sports. A lot of good friends, and basketball just kind of became my thing. Became my early drug. Became my purpose in life was play basketball. I ended up, going to college, had the opportunity to play, and injuries hit me hard. The drinking scene, I was always doing it in high school, but, I wasn't one of those. I'll meet some guys down here and they're like, "We're doing opiates in sophomore year of high school." I was, basketball and sports kept me on a straight and edge, Didn't mean on Friday nights we'd, go in the woods and get stupid and arrested. But, for the most part, it kept me in order. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to have a good life. I looked up to my parents, and just a lot happened going into college. My parents got a divorce. Like I said, I fell in love with the party scene. My head was the size of China, not even, I was the 10th guy on a D2 team, but I was like, I made it, and I didn't know there wasn't any plans after that, so I was there, and injuries came in hard. I got injured I was redshirted. I got injured my redshirt year. And that just became a constant, seeing doctors, back in the gym, pushing myself. Doctors introduced me to opiates, painkillers, and it was for the pain, and I was taking them, and it was really interesting, and I think about it a lot because that seems to come up a lot with athletes. And I love that conversation because I wasn't taking, I started taking more than prescribed, but my initial primary intention wasn't to feel the effect, right? It was to not have pain so my coach wouldn't notice that my back was hurting, that, maybe I'll make the team this year. And that's how I lived. I was, and all that other stuff was still going on. I was introducing myself to, new substances, drinking became fighting, just all the chaos that comes with the lifestyle. And before I know it, I ruptured my lumbar, and I actually did that injury twice, to the point that I had between my lumbar, you have 6 lumbar. Between my L4 and 5, you have a disc in between every vertebrae, and my disc was like flattened. So my 2 bones were rubbing together. And doctor said I needed surgery. Did the typical move. Didn't tell my parents I was getting the surgery. After I went to school, my parents got divorced. I was like, I'm on my own, and I'm a man now. And I got that surgery. I actually lost. It was just under. Right now I'm like 6'1" and 6'1" and a half, 6'1" and 3/4, and I was like well over 6'2". So it shortened me a little. Didn't play basketball again after that, and doctors stayed in the picture. Doctors left the picture. And treatment became regular, It's kind of in and out up right outside of Philly for a while, still in school, I was actually going to school to be a pharmacist, which was very funny.
Nice.
Maybe I shouldn't say it on here, but I got fired from the pharmacy I worked at I thought I was my own doctor and pharmacist, so I would try things. I was the inventory manager. So
I wanted that
I'd
job.
try something. I had every doctor you could possibly think of, and I'd go to my doctor and I'd be like, man, I just can't stay up throughout the day, and I'm losing focus. And then be like, oh, what about Adderall? And I'd be like, oh yeah, let's try it. And then I'd be like, oh, well, 12 o'clock rolls around. I just have this like anxiety, like this like pain in my stomach. And they're like, you're experiencing anxiety. Let's give you a prescription of Xanax as needed. And then I'm like, well, I can't fall asleep at night because all the other stuff. And they're like, we'll give you Klonopin just to like chill you out. So before I knew it, I was, and then I had all these still painkillers for my back, and I was still living the way I was living up in Westchester. And I didn't even realize it, but I was like, I'm the smartest drug addict there is. And all that kind of came to a head. And I clearly had an issue. And doctors backed off. And that's kind of when the treatment started. And really what we were talking about is what I was, right? Detox. I'm not staying any more than a week. Get me off of it, and then I'll be good. I got a girlfriend. She's great. She'll save my life. It'll be great. And that turned into 2 weeks the next time. And then it was a month, and I'll do a sober living, but I'm not going to any lower levels of care. And 2015, they talked me into, I went into treatment up in Philly in January, and there was 20 some inches on the ground. And they're like, do you want to go to Florida or you want to go to New York? And I was like, Florida. And that was my first experience down here. And it was cool because that's what we started talking about was in treatment up there. They don't, when I got out of treatment, I considered that AA. So I never sustained any length of sobriety up there. Even when I tried the sober living, I wouldn't go to meetings. I faked the sponsor. I was that annoying 19, 20, 21-year-old. And got down here and I got into I guess it was considered PHP because I did detox up north, and they're like, we're going to the meeting tonight, and I'm like, don't they just come here and those two guys just talk to you and think they're all cool about whatever? And that's what I pictured AA as, is like these guys on pedestals that come and speak to all of us at a treatment center. And we went out and we went to, I don't think they do it anymore, but it was Lantana speaker meeting. And it was when it was huge on a Thursday night, and there was like 200 people. And I was like, you're telling me everyone here is like sober or like trying to get sober? And they're like, yeah, it's a meeting. And I'm like, now keep in mind, it's a very large one compared to what we usually see. But that minute, I was kind of like, it was one of those like seeds were planted moments. Like, oh, there's a lot of people doing this sober thing. And I'm 22-ish at this time. I thought it was really cool. You know, they tried to talk me into sober living. I did like complete all levels of care, and just decided like, you know, I'm going to fix everything back home and get back into school and go play basketball in Europe. And I got back, and I didn't get drunk in the airport down here, but I got drunk in the airport in Philly. And
wasn't there a better bar to go to when you got home?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up running around for a bit, about a year, and came back down here in 2016 and went to the same place, and I knew people there. They knew me. They kind of knew how I reacted to things, and sober living made sense after that. And I stayed sober, you know, and a big part of my story, which I think, you know, all that stuff, like everyone has that like before they got sober story, and everyone's a little different. But for me, like that purpose I had from basketball, the purpose I had from, you know, I care so much about what people think of me, you know. I lost my purpose. I lost my vision. Like when I decided to get sober, I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that first year. You know, that first year, I did everything that everyone said. I got an awesome sponsor that I still have today. You know, I went to so many meetings. I got a job. I worked at my first 4 years of sobriety. I worked at Starbucks, and didn't have a car, didn't have any money. Took the bus, which the transportation down here is terrible compared to what I'm used to.
Yes, it is.
but that year was hard, man. Some people are like, I'm gung ho. Like, I was not gung ho. My sponsor would have me go to 7 a.m. meetings, and I would sleep and be woken up by when they did the chips at the end of the meeting. Like, I was not on cloud nine, but I essentially like gave up. I think it was the first time that I kind of threw in the towel and said, tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I'm so grateful for those moments, because I see a lot of guys that, like, it'll blow my mind. Like, I remember I'd be in sober living and they'd be like, I'm getting my car shipped down. I was like, you got a car up north right now? You know? And the materials, like, that's not, I mean, I say the millionaire and the guy on the streets with a 40, you know, they come to AA, the solution's the same for both of them, you know, no matter what they experienced. But it was eye-opening, man. Like, recovery, I never thought I didn't want this life. You know, I truly, I don't know what I wanted, but that process of finding my true self, because I truly lived off of what you thought of me, you know, and I still have that today. I woke up this morning with anxiety because I want you guys to like me. I want whoever watches this video to like me, which doesn't matter because I'm really not that important. But those things come up for me, and I consider that kind of untreated alcoholism. And I have a routine that I've been doing since day one that my sponsor gave me, that I read a few things. I read the daily reflections. I read 3 pages out of the big book every day, just through the first 164, and just keep rotating it. And it stabilizes me. Kind of remember, I remember where I'm at, and I remember that stuff doesn't matter.
I'm glad you touched on that, dude. I forget who I was talking to the other day. I think it was some clients, a bunch of men, and it was along the lines of like, it drives me crazy when you got the dudes who's like, I don't care what people think about me. I'm all macho and tough. Bullshit, dude. Yeah. Everybody cares what other people think about them. And admitting that is real courage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm like? Dude, that drives me. Unless you're a diagnosable sociopath, like, you probably care what other people think about you.
No, you're right. You're right.
Without a doubt.
I want to talk about the you have what? You just celebrated 8 years sober.
July 21.
And you still to this day wake up in the morning and read 3 pages out of the big book?
Mm-hmm.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Because when I hear something like that, I'm like, wow. And full transparency, I haven't picked up my big book in, well, my personal one, 4 years.
You don't bring it to your Wednesday night meeting?
No, and this is why. Because there's a stack of them there.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I just grab one there, or I have it on my phone.
Oh, I can't go without mine.
I know. I like
if
mine.
I go to a big book study, I'm bringing my book.
But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I think that's very commendable. 8 years later, still making time in the morning. So what is your morning routine? You said you do it every morning.
Yeah, wake up right about 5:45, go to the gym, or I got a few like exercise things in my garage, so I'll just do a little workout, nothing crazy, and then come back. I read the 3 pages, I read the daily reflections, and big thing for me is I never had a house. I became a house guy a year ago. So this has been recent, but we have a pool, and skimming the pool is like my meditation, and I love it. I'm a weirdo. Like, I love
Do you have kids?
No, not yet. I'm excited.
Okay. All right.
I'm excited.
A lot of that stuff changes.
I know.
But anyways, go ahead.
But I got super like, a big part of it would be like some type of meditation. It started with looking at podcast like that. I watch. I'm like under the radar, like one of your guys' biggest fans.
Really?
That's why I kind of wanted to come. I watch them all.
That's awesome.
I've been subscribed for
cool.
a few years.
Nice.
And that's what got me into. I didn't know anything about meditation. I didn't know anything about God. I didn't know anything about just being, right? And that's how I started. I started with like, the motivational stuff, like get up and go run.
David Goggins.
Yeah. And then it turned into like, I got really into AA. So I'd watch like AA speakers. And then, especially once I got into the field and I was like interested about different things with mental health and substance abuse and, just learning really. I think that's been a big key for my sobriety, is just like continuing to learn. I spend an hour on podcasts in the morning, and then about, now it's like 8:30 and
time to go on with your day.
Start my day. Yeah.
I think that's a big thing, that waking up at 5:45, you get more accomplished in the first 3 hours of your day than most people don't get accomplished in their whole day in terms of mental and emotional health and physical health. And that's something and that's why I asked you about the kids. I have 3 and they're up at, 6:30 roaring and ready to go. But that doesn't even matter though. And it's still my own, like, if you make time for what's important for you And at this stage in my life, I don't make time for it. You know, I'll work out if I feel like it. I'll pray if I feel like it, you know? So, and that's just where I'm at in this stage. I'm very transparent, Ben. This is a transparent podcast.
I love that.
Okay. But I hear something like that and it makes me think like, man, I wish I could get back to that, because I used to be the same way. I'd get up at like 5:30 in the morning and I would read, I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss is, I had a couple of I have some of his books here. But I would always read something from him. I would journal, yada, yada, yada. But I've gotten away from that. And working out in the morning, I think, is a really good thing to do, because for me, when I did work out in the morning, I was consistent. When I don't, it's like today, I know I need to work out, but depending on how things happen here, how busy I am with you know, editing or whatever, 5 o'clock rolls around and it's like, I
want to sit.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I sit all day. You know, I can't even get 10,000 steps in, Ben. What are you looking at me like that for?
I'm just listening to you, Tom.
Oh,
I'm engaged.
So, anyways, I think that's awesome, especially at 8 years sober, because the longer we get sober, or the longer that we stay sober, for some people, those things start to dissipate and go by the wayside.
No, and that happens to me too, you know, and one thing I left out is I'm like one of the most shot out human beings. Maybe it was the drugs, maybe it was, I don't know. But like those 3 pages that I read are almost new to me every single time. Like, and I look at it as a gift. Like I probably read the big book more than most of the people that are sober in my life, but I'm not a quoter. Don't ever, like, everyone's like, Tyler reads it, and it's like, no. This is not, and that's why I continue doing it, because like, and I think as your life changes and molds, that, you know, I mean, you always hear that in meetings that things hit you different, you know, depending on what's going on in your life. And that's like, that's real. And it's really cool to experience it through the words. Cause I would always hear people talk about that in meetings. So I was like, all right, I'm going to keep doing this cause I like it.
That's what I was going to say. I'm going to argue you. It's your experience, so I could be wrong, but
I love arguing.
I don't even think that it's probably necessarily, it's exactly what you were just explaining. I don't think it's necessarily that it's like reading it for the first time. I just believe you're probably in a different part of your life and experiencing it differently. Because like, for instance, even, dude, I got a nice new fresh sponsee last night that had never taken a deep dive into the big book before. Like really intelligent, smart kid, like very high IQ, very driven, successful businessman, 25 years old, already made millions of dollars previously in his lifetime, like very intelligent. But I'm sitting down with them reading the big book, and we're going through the doctor's opinion, which I've read 5,000 times, like legitimately. And I'm like, hey man, can I borrow your highlighter and pen real quick? Because even though I've read it so many times, like there was twice where I picked up his pen and highlighter and like wrote something down in my book.
Nice.
Because for whatever reason, I heard it different, or like applied it different in my mind, or like connected it in a different way, or learned to communicate it in a different way. In particular, last night, it was more along the lines of like, because you got to get better at communicating the message to other alcoholics. But there was something that I said like that connected it to another page. And I was like, I never explained it to somebody like that before. Let me jot that down. You know, it's like a new experience every time. So like when I left, I was like excited. And that kid's already texting me this morning, dude.
Love
like,
that.
Bro. Really? Is that the kid we went and visited?
Dude, this was, I was telling Eric this morning, like I'm super excited because this is like a legit spot. I didn't find this kid at a meeting. He was actually in my apartment complex down at the pool.
Oh, that's cool.
And then out of the blue, I get a call from a friend that, do you know Nicole P?
Yeah.
She lives in my apartment complex too, and she called me up and she's like, I got this kid, I'm trying to get him into detox, but I can't get him up off the floor, basically. Like, you know, and it was like getting to be pretty late at night. She's like, can you drive us? Like, I can't get him to go. He's snorting lines of Adderall, drank 2/5, and like ended up going down there and driving him to detox. And she went along with us, but like he's hammered, bro. We had to stop and get him airplane bottles on the way, the whole 9, dude. And he's all hammered. He's like, will you sponsor me? I'm like, bro, when you get out of detox, I got it. And he's right downstairs, dude. But I mean,
I love those stories.
It's refreshing because it's not like, for me, it's different. It's just not a guy in a meeting that came up to me.
All right.
I'm like, this was a God thing. You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
So it's new experiences is what I was getting at. You might read the same thing over and over, but you have a different experience depending on where you're at in your journey in life, like you were saying.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part. Like when I started working at the first place, I did alumni, and I was like, I mean, now I stayed at Starbucks so long because I ended up taking advantage. They pay for you to if you don't have a degree for Arizona State online, and that was like right through COVID. So I ended up getting my degree through there. Starbucks was great, and I was always running the alumni meeting at Archstone, and they got a new owner came in, whatever, and they asked me to run the alumni department. They never did that, and started doing it. And like at this point, I'm like super gun ho AA, just recovery, and I'm grateful for that. That my first few years wasn't a lot of material stuff. I was in sober living for 18 months. I moved into my first apartment, close to 2 years sober. I was making $10 an hour at Starbucks. So all the like what people say, like that would mess me up, right? The whole like, cause this whole time, like I'm this basketball player who's the man, and like I'm the furthest from the man in my own head. So all the things that were playing into that AA was where I grew up, You know what I mean?
Bro, that's awesome. Because earlier you were talking about pride and ego, and to like connect that, like now you're a barista.
Just smashed.
Bro, $10 an hour, like, but I'm so glad you brought this up because it just hits home another example of where somebody got things back slowly, but look where you're at today, dude.
Right.
Like you're 8 years sober, you have a house, you're married, like you have all of it now at your fingertips. Like, and bro, it's a result of doing it. They're 18 months in sober living, bro.
It was,
and you get to keep all this now.
I know. And it was cool because that, my sponsor would always walk me through, they always say like your sponsor, and he's big on that stuff. Like his job is to put my hand in God's hand. But he helped me a lot with, at this point, I've never like truly accomplished anything. I did some cool stuff, but I was a kid, like I didn't have a bunch of money ever. I didn't have a family. So like this was all new to me. I didn't know how to do my laundry. I didn't know how to, I knew how to cook pasta and I ate a lot of peanut butter and jellies, so like, but for example, like when I was at Starbucks, like I talked to especially sponsees and guys knew a lot, is everyone's always like looking over that hill, over that hump, right? Like once I get there, things are going to be perfect. It's going to be great, And then you get there and the shiny new toy is nice for a week, maybe a month. And then it just becomes what it is, right? We get a new car. It's like, you want to see my car, Ben? And then after a month, it's just, that's my car, And so like during that process at Starbucks, I'm grateful because my sponsor would have me kind of like zone in, like, yo, be the best freaking barista you can, dude.
Bro, I love that.
Like, and I'd come in and be like, yo, I'm going to make the best latte you've ever freaking had. I'd see guys from the rooms come in and I'd be like, maybe I shouldn't have done this, but you'd walk in and you'd say, all right, just give me a double espresso. I'm like, I'm going to put in 6 and you're going to be going, So plus free caffeine. it's like and when I left work, I didn't have to think about Starbucks. They were okay without me. It's just come in, rip lattes, drink all the caffeine you want, and I got one meal that I was like, dude, and I'm back to the same headspace I was when I thought I was the man. I'm like, I freaking made it.
Bro, let me touch on that. You're dropping some gems. So you just said you could leave Starbucks at the end of your shift and leave it there. I don't think we ever bring this up, but like that is so important too in early recovery.
Huge.
To have a job that you can be there and then you could just leave. Like where I'm at today, bro, I can't just leave this. My phone goes 24/7. You do the same thing we do. I wouldn't have been able to handle what I'm doing now with the mindset that I had in early sobriety. I'm glad that I waited till I had. Well, I don't think I got into a role like this where it became a 24/7 thing until I had like 4 or 5 years sobriety. 5 years probably. I couldn't have handled it in the first year, bro.
And that's not just this field. I mean, any sort of field that's high output, you know, a lot of sales positions and, you know, managerial stuff. I love that. I mean, you know, it's you. Like if somebody were to look at like a recovery sobriety playbook, that is what I would hand them. Like here, this is the playbook of what Tyler did. Do this along with the big book. Give them 2 books, the Tyler playbook and then the big book. Listen, we only have a couple minutes left because Ben has to
have to train the clients at 12.
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. So you're married.
Yeah.
I was thinking it, bro.
We have to.
Yeah. A couple minutes, not long. Where'd you meet your wife?
So it was on this island and this beach, and it was a beautiful day. No, I'm just kidding. Treatment. And it's a hilarious story because I didn't mention I did have a few stumbles when I got to Florida. So she came down a few months later, and right after one of my stumbles, this beautiful girl walks in the door and is there for detox. And I'm like, hey, how are you? You know? And it was funny, man, because like, that's all you hear, right? Don't get a relationship in your first year. Definitely don't like hook up with a girl in treatment. And we didn't. This is how I always explain it to people I have to talk to about it with, but we didn't hook up in treatment. But the place I was at was all levels of care with sober livings. So we became very good friends once we got to the sober living. And like it
Look at that smile, bro.
Somehow, like, thank God for her. Let's just put it that way. She was like much more responsible than where I was at. She was much more like, hey, we should wait before we do X, Y, and Z. I was kind of like, I don't know if I want a girlfriend right now, or it was like, do you want to have babies tomorrow? Because that would be cool, and we could like all be safe. And yeah, she was just like, no, focus on you. Go rip your lattes. We'll hang out, and it was healthy, and I was open about it, and I was transparent about it with my sponsor and like the close guys that I had at the time. And it worked. Now, would I recommend it to anyone? No. But to say it's kind of cool because like it's clearly not impossible, right?
Yeah.
But it is definitely playing with fire. We can put it that way.
Well, there's a lot that we can dig into in that, and we'll have you back on to,
I'd love
to
to
discuss that more. But I think in the end, like Ben and I say this all the time, we're not the sex police. All we're trying to do is to kind of caution you on what could happen.
Right.
And you know, this is a situation where it worked, and it is extremely rare that it works successfully. You guys both stayed sober, I'm assuming. You know, married, have a home, gonna be having children, you know, all the things. So yes, it can work, but very rarely does it.
It
But
reminds me of Dumb and Dumber, dude. What's he say? 1 in a million. So
Yeah.
you mean there's a chance?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
bro,
yeah.
that's every.
Yeah.
we got lucky because we both had really good sponsorship, and I had a good group of guys around, and she had a good group of girls around that kind of kept us, we didn't hang out. Like, you'll see it like, all right,
Let me ask.
they're
this,
gonna
bro.
save, you know what I mean?
Because I've always been like, if a chick had like a really strong sponsorship family, bro,
Yeah.
it's like intimidating.
Oh, they hated
bro.
me.
See,
Hated.
so you got to be on your P's and Q's because the sponsorship family will kick your ass. When it comes to women, dude, they're like a pack of pit bulls, man, like around their girls.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
bad. We had some breaks. We had some, like, it was rocky. It was rocky.
Yeah.
It was not
how long you been married?
5 years in
Oh wow,
February.
Okay,
Nice,
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah.
So it was.
Does she
but-
work in the field?
No.
Huh.
Yeah, but she's a good one. She's a good one. I got super lucky, but that time, kind of what we're talking about, that time you need to focus on you and your recovery. That's why I tell people to just wait. Just
Yeah.
wait. It should wait. I'm an idiot and I like to make it really hard for myself, but now everyone's like, oh, well, Tyler did it and his life looks great. I'll do it, but don't do that back home.
Dude, this has been great. Like, I love being in here, and like I said earlier, you drop some gems, dude, just by telling your story. I love like sitting back and like putting the pieces together. You know what I mean? And like, oh, that makes sense the way that. Oh, dude, some of the stuff you said just like really brought up some great points, dude.
Yeah. Tyler, appreciate you coming on, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we can
Seriously.
have you back on again at some point.
Love
And
that.
Bring you and your wife on and
Yeah,
see
yeah.
how.
That
we
would
can
be
talk about
interesting.
it.
Bro, yeah, see how. Yeah, dude.
Would
we
she be
should do
down for that?
100%.
All right, let's set it up.
Sweet.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.